Fast-paced, Zelda-oriented, and unorthodox are a couple ways to describe the latest Zelda spin-off, Hyrule Warriors. Hello guys, I hope you have been well. This Monday I will give an impression of sorts regarding the spin-off of Hyrule Warriors and give a couple of takes regarding the future of Zelda endeavors. Please keep note that this video is not a review. I will give my own personal reflections on the game once it comes out. Nevertheless, there are a couple of curiosities that I do wish to discuss with you all. It has become evident to me that Hyrule Warriors is a really anticipated title towards Zelda fans. However, let's analyze the game subjectively and give it a fair assessment. And that is what this video is about in essence, to discuss the very meaning of the game's intention to break away from traditional Zelda mechanics. Regardless of the game's intention or message across its pragmatism, we do have to take a look at the game's inception of development. Hyrule Warriors was first announced on December 18, 2013 in that month's Nintendo Direct. As a result, it is conjecture to say that the game roughly has a year of development. After all, the game has already been released in Japan in August and the game is due to come out in the US on the 26th of September. So let's humor the possibility that the game has had a year in development. Where does that bring us? Well, let's take a step back into perspective of Zelda producer Eiji Aonuma. The last Zelda game that was released beforehand was Link Between Worlds, which was released in November of 2013. Suffice to say, I find it likely that talks in developing the game happened sometime in the later portions of development of Link Between Worlds. However, why have the talks? As many adamant Zelda fans have known already is that the development team number 3, in addition with Aonuma and Miyamoto in particular, wish for the Zelda franchise to be portrayed in a new way. Which brings into question the real reason behind Hyrule Warriors' existence, is to test the waters for an unorthodox Zelda game, which if I may add is doing quite well considering the largely positive reviews for the game. It seems to me that Hyrule Warriors is a means to an end for future Zelda endeavors. Don't get me wrong, I am quite excited for the game, and in addition with upcoming DLC, I just can't help but getting curious about the logistical side of Nintendo. Think about this analytically for a moment. This is the first time in a Zelda game, well, if you consider Hyrule Warriors to be a full-fledged Zelda game that is, that DLC is being implemented. The very notion that Nintendo is implementing DLC in a Zelda game doesn't necessarily show its need for public approval, but speaks volumes of their collective and calculated response to handle a new generation of games. In other words, Nintendo is taking new steps to accommodate the latest iteration of gaming philosophy, which just so happens to include downloadable content. Hyrule Warriors is not alone in this endeavor, however. Mario Kart 8, if you did not know, is implementing a similar manner in delivering new characters, one of which just so happens to be Link. So these points have led me to a very curious inference. Why the need for these advancements? Why did these talks regarding the inception of Hyrule Warriors occur in later 2013? Well, let's take a look at the fiscal year of 2013 for Nintendo. It isn't a shock to say that the Wii U console has had a rough start. However, looking at its 2013 year in terms of profit really has placed a damper on both consumer confidence and word of mouth between critics. So to place this into perspective, imagine yourself in Nintendo's shoes. It's 2013 and the Wii U console has seen some bad weather. So what is the best course of action? Obviously, if you keep implementing the same marketing strategy, nothing will give in. But let's say if you implement a new stark approach for some of Nintendo's key franchises, let's say the Legend of Zelda series, you might get some leeway. And in some degree, it is working. In Japan, Wii U sales have jumped ever since the release of Hyrule Warriors. However, I wouldn't place that much confidence in that title nor in that example. For example, Link Between Worlds, which is the game that I would say is starting a new trend of unorthodox Zelda mechanics, begun its development in 2011. However, Eiji Aonuma was debating in making a full-fledged sequel to Link to the Past or a remake of Majora's Mask. Needless to say, there was a host of talks in developing that particular game. However, I digress. Before I spiral off again, what I'm attempting to say here is that a new wave of Zelda games that implement an unorthodox mechanic was first discussed in 2011 and is being implemented since the late 2013. So what does this say about Hyrule Warriors, or what about the age-long question on whether or not the Zelda series should have voice acting? Yes, I am going there. Hyrule Warriors does have a narrating segment where a bit of voice acting was involved. Here is the clip.
Link and his troops stepped through one of the portals, appearing in an era of fantastical sights. He had heard tell of a land in the clouds, but now he could see Skyloft with his own eyes, though he was not the first new arrival. Overrun with monsters, the floating island faced imminent destruction. Though vastly outnumbered, Link did not hesitate. He and his allies leapt into the fray to save Skyloft from disaster.
Now, before I get a bunch of comments saying that voice acting will be terrible in Zelda games, let's think about the logistical side of its reasoning in the game. Eiji Aonuma acted as a supervisor for Hyrule Warriors, so it is safe to say that he is well aware of the voice acting being introduced in this aspect of the game. So this leaves the question, why did he approve of this? Well, Hyrule Warriors, as I said before, is testing the waters for an unorthodox form of Zelda games. It may be an inference, but I bet he's looking at the public response on whether or not voice acting should be in a Zelda game. Now, before I go on with this really heated topic, let's take a look at this fan dub for the ending of Twilight Princess. Which, if you did not play Twilight Princess, then I must call for a spoiler warning.
What? Say something. Am I so beautiful that you've no words left? If all in Hyrule are like you, then maybe you'll do all right.
Now, I don't believe that voice acting will necessarily be a bad thing in a Zelda game. What matters is how the voice acting is handled. One convention that I believe we can all agree on is that voice acting should be a means to an end, not the sole determining factor when telling a story. But tell me, what do you guys think? Should future Zelda games have voice acting? And best response will be featured in next episode's video. But let's get back to the topic at hand. Hyrule Warriors is the first step, a trailblazer for future Zelda endeavors. And seeing the reviews and of course the hype for the game, it is safe to say that a game like Hyrule Warriors will be considered. A Hyrule Warriors sequel or some spin-off of the sort would be expected for sure. And since the announcement of DLC to include new characters, I'm sure the game will be in the minds of both ardent Zelda fans and newcomers alike. But one thing I really want to emphasize in this video is the Zelda series will be experiencing change, and I believe Hyrule Warriors is a pioneer to that fact. Well then, thanks for watching. Now, with that portion of the video, I want to discuss some comments from last week's video. Ever since last week, I have given you, my loyal subscribers, the choice in choosing which new gaming topics I should cover. I will be covering Mario Wii U, Star Fox, and Fire Emblem in their own new series in the very near future. Personally, I'm very excited to cover these topics, and yes, I will discuss them weekly. I will provide details on when these new series will come out in the near future. Also, for the ones who wanted to see a Fallout 4 news and Star Wars Battlefront news, I will resume those two new series, but in the later future. In next week's episode, coming Monday on the 29th of September, I will be giving a much bigger analysis on whether or not the Zelda series should have voice acting. Episode 13 will be arriving next Monday. If you enjoyed my mindless ranting, then please hit the subscribe button and I will personally greet you. Anyways, I am grateful that you have watched this far into this piece of online content. Nevertheless, here is the video of the day.
Snake, we've got a huge-ass problem on our hands.
Why so serious, Colonel?
That bird's priority is sky high!
Well, personally, he prefers the air.
Objection, Snake! Personally, I prefer your ass!
Hey, Snake! Snake! Snake!
You only have to say it once, you know.
I gotta interrupt this call to bring you an important message. You see, the whole Brawltons thing is a conspiracy. Kerbifer and Rita-chan were pandering to prepubescent Newgrounders in order to get the front page. Wait, there's more. It was secretly funded by Egoraptor and the government.
Not asking you.